Hello from France, Zimbabwe. Oh my gosh, we're global. We're all over the world. Yeah, so I actually just finished recording a video for my YouTube channel and decided that I wanted to come in to YouTube and go live and talk to y'all. I dropped a post yesterday, and it was a carousel post, and the first post asked the question, well, it didn't ask a question, but it said, raise your hand if your mother was your first bully. And hello, Miss Mona Lisa. She's in New Jersey. Hi. And, I got quite a few comments from that. I've been getting some DMs over the last couple of days from people who it's resonating with. And I have been feeling called by spirit to talk about the mother wound for months now. And I won't say that I've been resistant, but I definitely haven't felt super clear on how I want to speak about it. I used to teach on the mother wound some years ago. I had a class called Liberated Daughter that I taught back in 2023. So it's been 3 years since I've touched on this topic. And I've been really feeling called because it's been coming up so much in my work. I just finished my selfish bitch initiation in January, and if you're interested in that, the link is in my bio. That was an incredible 21-day program that I walked women through to rise into sovereignty and to learn how selfishness is the key to your feminine magnetism. That was beautiful, beautiful offering. And in that offering, most of the women that were in that space were dealing with mother wounds. They were dealing with issues with their mother. And there was one woman in particular who had a really contentious relationship with her mother. Her mother was a big bully. Her mother had stolen an heirloom from her that had been given to her by her grandmother. And in that 21-day program that we were in together, I guided her into power and how to utilize her voice and how to stand up to her mother to reclaim what her mother had stolen from her. And it was a really beautiful transformation that this woman had gone through. And many of the other women in the space had also or have also been dealing with mother wounds, whether it's physically abusive mother, narcissistic mother, emotionally immature. And even if your mother wasn't volatile or violent or, aggressive towards you, a lot of women are dealing or have dealt with being parentified as children. Let me know in the comments if any of this is resonating with you. If you have a difficult relationship with your mom, let me know. Like, drop a comment so I can keep track of who is moving through this. And let me know in the comments if you are a woman who was parentified as a child. And I just posted about this in my stories a little while ago because a woman responded on my post about, was your first mother or was your mother your first bully? And she said, what if you were the mother? What if you were what if your mother was your first child? And what she's referring to is parentification, which is something that happens very, very often to girls, specifically eldest daughters, and or the only daughter. Like if the daughter is an only child, or if she is the only female sibling, all of her other siblings are brothers, then that girl will become parentified. Nikki just said definitely parentified. Enchanted Birth Keeper, that's my friend Leticia. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about her in a moment. She is also a parentified eldest daughter. A lot of you are parentified eldest daughters. A lot of my clients are parentified eldest daughters or only daughters. And so what that means is that you were given a wide range of adult responsibilities from a young age. So a lot of times it is having to care for younger siblings, domestic labor such as cooking and cleaning. And it's the contrast is even more apparent when you have boy siblings because typically all of the domestic labor falls onto the girl and the boys don't have to take on any of the domestic labor. So not only are these girls raised to see that their only value is in how they are useful or the labor that they can give, there's also a lot of incongruence between how they view themselves as women in relation to men because the boys in their life or the men in their lives don't have to take on any of that labor. And so the parentified daughters become people pleasers. They become the overgivers. They become the empaths. And you guys know I talk about empaths because a lot of women call themselves empaths when what they really mean is they have no emotional boundaries. They have poor spiritual hygiene. These are the girls who are very attuned to the emotional state of people around them and they are constantly needing to fix and appease the emotional state of people around them. Is it okay that I'm a guy in this conversation? Yes, you're more than welcome to be here. I talk about the mother wound in the context of female mother daughter dynamics, but I'm happy to have you in this space as well, because so much of this, it's not the exact same dynamic, but there are men who are having that are carrying mother wounds as well, but their mother wound just manifests differently. Let me just read through some of these comments because y'all are like really dropping in. Freedom Sanctuary says yes, she's passed now, and it was getting better towards the end, but definitely parentified as her only daughter. So you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Another parentified kid here, the dynamic was her lack of care with herself. Yes, and so the woman who responded in my comments on my most recent post, and she DM'd me to clarify a little bit more of what she's talking about, and you can see a little bit of that exchange in my stories. She had to take on the role of caring for her mother, and like she says, the lack of care for herself. So when the mother completely dissociates from her role as motherhood, sometimes it's addiction, sometimes it's depression, then the oldest daughter typically takes on that role and that responsibility. Muriel says, I've experienced that with my mother for years, and I'm the firstborn. I've always been parentified. Today, my mom and I do not have a good relationship. And sometimes, Muriel, what you're talking about, that's what happens a lot of times, because the parentified eldest daughter realizes that, excuse me, y'all, I've been talking all day. I've been doing YouTube videos all day. The parentified eldest daughter realizes that the only value that she has toward her mother is her emotional and physical labor. And a lot of times those daughters have to cut off their mother. They have to distance themselves in order to have any sense of autonomy or any sense of freedom. Does that resonate with you? Mona Lisa says, yes, I don't think my mother ever really wanted me. She used me as a pawn growing up to get away with things. I struggle as an adult now. So I'm so glad that I'm here and I'm talking about this. And this is why I've been feeling this so heavy on my spirit to have this conversation, because so many of you are moving through these wounds. And, I understand exactly how you feel, like feeling like your mother never wanted you. In the caption of my post, I talked about how, when I was 14 years old, I realized that my mom was trying to break my spirit. My mom was extremely physically abusive. She was emotionally abusive. I grew up in a household where there was constant yelling, constant violence. I mean, my mom was a single mom after my parents divorced, and she was extremely stressed out by her life and had a lot of anger and bitterness about her circumstances because the relationship with my father dissolved and she was left alone, like holding the bag, holding 4 kids to handle on her own. But we became the outlet for her frustration, the outlet for her anger. And I know what it's like to look at the woman who you are biologically hardwired to love and care for and be so deeply attuned to and attached to, and to feel like this woman fucking hates me, like this woman hates me and she's trying to ruin my life. And something that I said in my caption was, the only thing that kept me from ending my life when I was a teenager was my dream of moving to New York City. I knew I was moving to New York City. I was going to become an actress. And that dream is literally what kept me alive in those darkest moments throughout my childhood and my adolescence. Because there were many, 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 many times when I did not want to live anymore, because the the gravity of the abuse that I was going through and never feeling like I had a place of safety or sanctuary. And so, yeah, generational trauma causes much dysfunction. And that's what I'm referring to when I talk about the mother wound. The mother wound is the it's like the emotional or it's the dysfunction that a woman experiences or a man experiences due to having a dysfunctional relationship with your mother. And I talk a lot about the power of the mother in my work in general, and especially the mother as it relates to a girl child, because your mother is, and all women are, the embodiment of the divine feminine frequency. They're the embodiment of the creator, and your mother is the creator. She is who created you. She is also your first experience with God in the flesh. She's also your experience of womanhood. Like you learn what it means to be a woman based off of your mother and how she shows up in the world, what she embodies through her womanhood. That becomes imbued in you, whether consciously or subconsciously. And so when you have a mother who's operating from supreme distortion and is then directing that to you, it completely changes the trajectory of your life. It changes the way that you see yourself. It changes the way that you show up in your relationships. It changes the way you show up in your day to day life. And so, a lot of women who have issues with men, it's because of their experience with their mothers. Like we talk a lot about, like people say daddy issues, right? But daddy issues are really the mother wound, because the way that you engage with men is a direct result of how you were conditioned by your mother and how your mother engages with men. Like if your mother was a pick me, if your mother was a people pleaser and overgiver, you are very likely to become a people pleaser and an overgiver. You are very likely to become a pick me, because her concept of maleness and manhood and how she puts it on a pedestal gets passed on to you. This happens a lot in religious households. So if you have a mother who is still ensnared by any of the Abrahamic religious cults, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, you are very likely to take on those same mindsets of female inferiority, putting men on a pedestal because you are basically bowing down to the supreme male God, the supreme male deity, and that reverberates through every aspect of your life. You, as a woman, your mother is going to determine your self worth, your self esteem, your inner voice, your connection to your wisdom or disconnection from your wisdom, how you're able to speak your truth, how you're able to ask for what you want, express your needs. All of those things are learned from your mother. And a lot of women are moving through the world they're disconnected from their own internal voice, their own inner wisdom, because they're hearing the voice of their mother. So you're looking in the mirror and you're hearing the criticisms that you first heard from your mother, whether it's about your body or your skin tone or your face, your weight, the way you carry yourself, those things that your mother said to you when you were a young girl that's solidified in your psyche and in your consciousness. That is the perception that you have of yourself moving through life. Drop in the comments to let me know if this is resonating with you. Jenny says, going low contact allows me to finally prioritize myself. Yes. And a lot of women have to do that in order to survive. Callie says, my childhood was calm, healthy. However, the other people in family can be snakes. Absolutely. Absolutely. But this particular conversation is about the mother wound. And those people that are snakes in the family are likely impacted by their relationships with their mothers. Thank you. Freedom Sanctuary says, thank you for your transparency. You're welcome. And I don't talk about my own personal story very often, just because sometimes I feel so far removed from it because I have done so much work and I've grown and evolved so much, and it's not something that's ruling my life. But I forget that telling my story and talking about the fire that I walk through and what it is that I have healed from is an important part of helping women understand the path that it is available to them as well. And so I've had some recent experiences with my own mother that, have brought this to the forefront again, because, I have my converted school bus and I live in this full time. I've been spending a lot more time in my hometown over these last couple of years, and thus spending a lot more time around my mother. And I knew that when I was finishing my bus in Texas back in 2022, I realized very, very quickly while I was there that my journey was not about my bus. I was back in my hometown in proximity to my mom because I had deeper work to do and deeper excavation to do around my mother wound, my healing my inner child. And thankfully, I had a lot of tools available to me in order to move through that. But I knew that there was so much more to be excavated. And I've had some very, very challenging experiences with my mom in these last few years, even being at the level of awareness, the level of healing, the level of autonomy and authority that I have. It still comes up for me as well. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was having a conversation with my mom, and I have a mother who, like I just described some of the abuses that I went through. My mother does not acknowledge that she doesn't see what she did as abuse. She doesn't think it's abuse, and she doesn't apologize. And I spent a lot of time angry in my 20s because I was really needing that validation. I was needing her to acknowledge the things that she had done to me. I was needing her to admit to her wrongdoing and apologize. And so much of my healing was dependent upon her acknowledging that. And I'm gonna circle back and then come back to this point in a moment. But just a few weeks ago, I was at her house and we were having a conversation that ended up going off the rails very quickly because my mom cannot handle any type of emotion. Like if she's talking about her past, or if anyone in my family brings up like our past experiences, she cannot handle the emotions that rise from that. And I understand now, and also recognize this in so many of the other women that are going through this, is that our mothers are carrying immense shame and guilt for the things that they did, immense shame and guilt, but they don't have the tools to handle the shame and the guilt. And so it comes out in other ways. It is, for some women, it's violence and aggressiveness. That's my mother. For some women, it's passive aggressiveness. It's the, oh, well, I must be the worst mother in the world, or it's the silent treatment, or it's just, I don't want to talk about it. Well, we don't talk about those things here. The silence, right? The silence is something that a lot of you struggle with because you want to be heard and you want to be seen in the truth of what it is that you experienced, but your mother doesn't have the capacity to give that to you. And that's deeply, deeply heartbreaking. And so to go back to what I was saying before, this conversation that went off the rails very quickly with my mom, eventually she starts getting into her Bible scriptures. And for any of you who has like a Bible thumping mother who, again, captured by the cult of Abrahamic religion, they use these texts, these male dominated, male written, completely devoid of the feminine principle texts, in order to justify the things that they have done, because it's the only way that they can cope with their behavior. But what she said to me was, she said, I'm glad I beat you. She said, I'm glad I beat you. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. I'm glad I beat you. Thank you, Jesus. And she said, because she beat me, she saved my life. She believes that by abusing me, she saved my life. And I understand why she feels that way, because of all of the things that she went through with her mother, and feeling like her mother did not guard the gate to protect her and her sisters. And some of the things that my mother went through, it's unconscionable. Some of the things that my mom and her siblings went through growing up in the 50s and 60s and 70s in Southside St. Louis. You know what I'm saying? And so I understand, like, she feels like she did so much better than her own mother did. And in many, 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 many ways she did. And I love my mother and I'm grateful for my mother, like, truly, despite everything. Sorry, my friend's driving, so you might hear the car engine for a moment. But despite all of the things that she has said and done, like, I truly do love my mother. Like, to the bottom of my heart, I love my mother. And I understand why she feels like she saved my life, because her mother failed her in so many ways. And she felt like by her doing these things, by beating on us, that's what kept me on the straight and narrow, which isn't true, but that's her perception. And I allow her to have their perception. And the gift of what it is that as I'm talking about moving through the mother wound, the gift of this is recognizing that both of our truths can exist simultaneously. She can feel and believe the truth that she believes, and I can know the truth that I know. And I don't need her to validate the truth of my experience in order for it to be real for me. And a lot of you are struggling because you are needing your mother to validate your perception of reality, your perception of the experience that you had. And because of the lens that she's coming from, because of the abuse that she experienced, because of her lack of tools, because she's indoctrinated into a religious cult or any other type of cult, whatever the case is with your mother, she doesn't have the capacity for that. But when you release the need for her to validate your reality, that is the beginning of you experiencing liberation, experiencing freedom. So when my mom said those things to me, and she said, I'm glad I beat you. Thank you, Jesus. I saved your life because I beat you. I was just like, okay. Cool. Cool story, bro. Because what else can you say? what else can you really say to that? Like, but you didn't save my life, and blah, blah, all the things that you would want to do from this emotional place of like needing to be seen, needing to be heard, but I don't need that from her. What I actually loved about that was that she said it, like she admitted that, because every other time it would come up in conversation, she would either deny that she did it, or she would say, well, you deserved it because of X, Y, Z reasons. But for her to just flat out say, I'm glad I did it and stand 10 toes down on that, that to me was like another level of liberation, because it's like, okay, well, at least you're not lying. At least you're not lying about it. And for some of you who are still walking through the fire, I know that hearing that might be like, ugh, like, what do you mean? Like, how did you stay composed? How did you stay calm through that? But that's part of the work. And that's the beauty of like what it is that I'm offering and what I'm teaching. So I'm going to get into the offering that I have that's called Sovereign Daughter. It's bringing you from that place of emotional reactivity where you cow in front of your mom, or when you're in the presence of your mother, you still feel like a child. Like some of you are like, y'all are grown ass women in this space. A lot of you have successful businesses. A lot of you have accomplished incredible things in your life. A lot of you are mothers yourself. You have families of your own. But when you're in your mother's presence, you feel like a little kid again. You feel like that little girl who doesn't have a voice anymore. And what I'm offering you is the opportunity to move out of that space of feeling like a powerless little girl, to be able to stand in front of the mother who gave you life, who breathed life into your body, but who also caused tremendous harm for you, and say, I accept you. I accept you for who you are and who you were showing up as. And I don't need anything from you because I'm so whole and I'm so fully resourced within myself. And you don't owe me anything. You gave me everything that you needed to give me, which was life. You gave me life. You put me on this planet, and you gave me the opportunity to live out my dreams and my soul's mission simply by me being born and you being the vessel to bring me into existence. Because for a lot of you, what you don't understand is that's the only thing that your mother was here to give you. She wasn't here to give you anything else other than the breath in your lungs. That was the only role in your sacred contract that your mother had to play, and everything else that you might have received was a bonus. And I know it's not easy to hear that, but for some of you, that's your story, that's your path, that's the trajectory that you are walking. And to get to a place where you can stand in front of a woman who says, I'm glad I beat you, and it not move you, it not shake you, it not pull you out of your center, that's power. That's power. That's sovereignty. Because a lot of you are still giving your power away to your mother. You're giving your power away by needing her to be anything other than who she is, by needing her to acknowledge your pain, by needing her to apologize, by needing her to change, by needing her to go to therapy, by needing her to do any of the other things. Think about what your own dreams are, your fantasy, and how that is preventing you from being in your fullest expression, in your fullest evolution. And when you release that death grip that you have on this fantasy that is not possible in this moment, I'm not saying that it isn't possible in the future, because something that a lot of women don't understand is that you have the power to shift the dynamic of your relationship with your mother, but you are the one that has to change. And nobody ever wants to hear that. You are the one that has to change, not her. And you change by releasing her from the shackles that you're keeping her in by needing her to be anything other than who she is. You change by no longer looking at her as your adversary and simply looking at her as a woman, looking at her as a woman who has gone through hell, looking at her as a woman who, for in the case of my mother, is a Black woman who was born in the 50s, grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, Southside St. Louis, during civil rights movement, joined the military in the 80s, experienced tremendous amounts of misogynoir, sexism and racism paired together. For those of you who don't know what misogynoir is, it's racism and sexism against a Black woman. All of these things. And it's not to absolve her for her behavior. It's not to absolve her for the things that she did. It's simply to recognize, to understand, and to offer that grace and compassion and release her. You are free. You are free. You have no responsibility over me because you know that I teach. If you're familiar with my work, responsibility is power. So when you give your mother all of their responsibility, you are giving her all of the power over your life. When you reclaim that responsibility, that is where your power comes from. That is where your sovereignty comes from. That is where your autonomy comes from. Your authority comes from. Because a lot of you subconsciously are still viewing your mother as the authority in your life. And this is why you feel powerless. And so my offering is called Sovereign Daughter. It is a 3-day event that I'm doing at the end of the month, starting on March 7th, or excuse me, March 27th, March 28th, and March 29th. So 3-day intensive to take you through the process of transformation, which has 3 stages. The first stage is awareness. And I've already given you some bits of awareness. This is a free coaching that you just got in this live. The first stage is awareness, becoming aware of the good girl contract, becoming aware of the unearned loyalty that you were still giving to your mother. It is about understanding the dynamic, the mother-daughter dynamic that you've been existing in, and why it is keeping a stranglehold on you and over your life. The second stage, or the second phase, is grief and rage. Because for a lot of you, your grief and your rage is deeply suppressed, which is manifesting into illnesses. It's manifesting into reproductive issues. It's manifesting into thyroid issues, weight gain, cancers, all types of ailments, because you were not fully expressed, because you were holding so much emotion, so much rage, so much grief in your body from the unfairness of your experience and from not being a fully expressed person, not being a fully expressed woman. So on day 2, I'm going to be taking you through the process of grief ritual and rage ritual. So the awareness is going to make a lot of you angry. A lot of you are probably feeling that in your body right now. You're feeling so much churning in your system right now as you're listening to me speak. And then day 2 is when we get to process that through, transmute that, and release it out of your body. And then day 3 is the severing and the authority. That is where you clear any remnants of those cord attachments that you might have. And you stand in the full authority as a sovereign woman who no longer is hearing the voice of her mother, who is no longer bound by the conditioning of her mother, who is no longer chained to needing her mother's approval, validation, or apology to be who it is that you were designed to be. So if this is something that sounds like what you want, go in the comments and type freedom. And you'll get the link will be sent directly to your inbox. Type freedom in the comments. And I'll keep sharing a little bit more about this. And also, if you have any questions, drop your questions in the question box, because when I wrap up, I'll answer any questions that you have. I can't see all the comments right now. I have my comments frozen, but I'm going to go through and read those when I'm done with the rest of this transmission. So Sovereign Daughter begins on March 27th. We're doing this over an entire weekend. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And that way you'll have the rest of the evening to process and integrate after that. And each call is going to be uploaded to a course portal. So after each call, I'll get it uploaded. So you will have a course portal with all calls, all the recordings there, so that you have access to that anytime to revisit the teachings of this process. Currently in the early bird phases, the final price is going to be $555, but I'm starting at $222 as the early bird. And then it's going to go up to $333, and then the final price will be $555. As you all know, if you've done any of my work before, I increase my prices without notice, but I give you a little bit of time for early bird so that you can get in, and I make it a little bit more accessible for those of you who might be a little bit more tight financially. There's also payment plans available upon checkout with Klarna and Afterpay if you need a little bit more time to finance out this investment in yourself. Something unique that I'm doing for this offering that I've never done before is I'm making this an affiliate offering. So when you sign up for this, you're going to receive your own personal affiliate link that you can share with other women who need this work, because I guarantee you know women who also need this work. And so you're going to receive, with any woman that signs up using your unique link, you're going to receive a 40% commission from that sale. And I'm taking this note from Matriarch Nova, Katya, Matriarch Nova, who does this for her offerings, and I think it's brilliant. And she has been able to pay back so much more money to her community because this is what matriarchy is about. Matriarchy is about redistributing resources. And so not only do I want to call in more abundance for myself, I'm calling in abundance for all of you too. So when you invest in this and then you share with your community, you make money back. The breakdown for that is, let me see. So if women buy from your link when it's early bird, you'll receive an $88 commission on every single sale. If they buy at the early bird, which is $333, you'll receive a $133 commission. And then if they buy at the final price of $555, then you will receive a commission of $222. So the commission will raise as the pricing raises on this offering. So this is a great opportunity for you to not only invest in yourself, but make the money back by sharing this with your community, and then make additional money for whatever it is that you want to use that money for. So yeah, Sovereign Daughter, beginning on March 27th. If you want the link to that, comment freedom. I'm so excited about that. Enchanted Birth Keeper, who I don't know if she's still here, but she is my good friend Leticia. She's here in Albuquerque, and she is a powerful, powerful birth worker. And she's just a powerful, not just a birth worker, but like all around spiritual medicine woman. And I invited her in on day 2 to lead all of the women in the space through a really transformative grief ritual. So if Leticia, if you're still here, please let me know so that I can shout you out again. I can't see the comments. I don't know if you're still here, but let me know if you're still here. So Leticia is going to be guiding us through. So go check out her profile if you want to know more about her work. And I'm really, really excited about her. And I have somebody else that I'll be announcing in a couple of days that's going to be leading you through the rage ritual on the 2nd. And she does powerful, powerful somatic embodiment work. And I'm really, really excited to have her in this offering as well. Ruti says, so I'm from Zimbabwe, Africa, and that shows how much of an impact you've made in this world. But in this case, I'm glad you're talking, moms. Thank you. Thank you so much. Enchanted Birth Keeper, that's Leticia, says, big revelations with what I thought was a daddy wound, but now I see how this relates to my mother so much more. Exactly. And I'm going to be doing some more content about that in the coming weeks, talking about the misconceptions around daddy issues or daddy wounds and how it's actually mother wound. Muriel says, no contact with my mom as well because our relationship was so toxic. She fought me so much after her divorce with my dad. I had no idea what triggered her and me, and it was very exhausting. You know, a lot of our mothers, you know, are really triggered by, you know, our freedom. You know, they're triggered by our freedom. They're triggered by our potential. They're triggered by our youth. And that comes out in jealousy. It's jealousy for a lot of our mothers, you know, because they look at how some of us are walking through life with this sense of fearlessness where we're not conforming to societal standards or expectations. A lot of us are walking very unique paths. A lot of us are looking at our mothers and the choices that they've made, and we're saying, actually, I don't want that. And our mothers are taking that personally because they see that we're choosing something different from them, which makes them need to reflect on the choices that they've made in their lives, which is really, really hard for them. So rather than focus inward on themselves, they project that frustration, that anger, or that jealousy onto their daughters. Love of Flowers says, and you can heal the mother wound and continue to have a good relationship with your mother, even with an apology and acknowledgement of your hurt trauma. I wish that for all women. Yes, absolutely, you can. You can. And that's what I was touching on before when I was saying that I'm not saying that you'll never have that with your mother, but a lot of women are holding on to a fantasy that doesn't exist in this current reality. And it is you doing the work of healing yourself and releasing that attachment to that fantasy that can actually make it more likely to show up in your life. Because as you're doing this work and you're releasing your mother from this need of being your everything, because remember, when you're a baby, this is why I say if your mother is your first representation of God, you lived in her body. She grew you, nurtured you, cared for you, protected you, provided for you in her womb. And then when you were birthed, you're still attached to her. Like, babies don't understand separation. It takes a very, very long time for us to disconnect or separate from our mothers. But energetically, emotionally, a lot of us are still very connected. We still have this like emotional, like umbilical cord attached to our mothers. And in doing so, we are not allowing them to be humans. We're not allowing them to be autonomous beings, because your mother, before she had you, She was a woman. She was just a woman with her own ideas, hopes, dreams, thoughts. She was just a woman. And you not being able to see her as just a woman, not her, not my mother, not who she is to me, but who she is on her own is an integral part of that separation process for your autonomy, but also for her to be able to return to her space of autonomy. She says, my mother was raped by her father from age 9 to 14. I don't think she healed from that and never got justice. My father thinks she was jealous of me that my dad didn't do the same to me. It's very, very likely that that's the case. And I'm so sorry that that happened to your mother. That is, I can't think of anything worse than that, truly. Mwaka says, I agree the mother wound is very real, but I'm also conscious of how the mother is blamed for the wounds of the child more than the father. The father gets away with so much. Well, this is something that I talk about a lot in my work, and I'm actually glad that you brought that up. The father, the father is not the creator. The mother is the creator. And this is something that a lot of women struggle with when it comes to the fall of patriarchy and wanting to hold men accountable for everything and wanting men to be better and wanting men to grow. It's the exact same thing, but pushed onto men. Where men will show up differently in relationships and where men will change and grow and evolve will be in response to the growth and evolution of women. We are the leaders. We are the creators. This is our reality. Consciousness is birthed through the womb of the woman, and it is the woman's responsibility to change her consciousness, and then the consciousness of the man will follow. Muriel says, how do we heal this wound? So I just went through that. I didn't see this comment before I talked about Sovereign Daughter, but Sovereign Daughter is the program that is going to help you move through and unpack all of the deep the rifts and dissonance that you have within your body. So I really hope that you ask for that link because I'd love to see you at the end of the month. Freedom Sanctuary wants to know, how did you determine to be in relationship with her after doing your own inner work? So that's something that I'm going to be diving more deeply into in Sovereign Daughter. But what I will say here is that I learned to treat my relationship with my mother like a game. I mean, life in general is a game, like we're playing the game of life. But I learned to treat my relationship with my mother as a game. And so for me, it was never about, because a lot of, and this goes for any relationship. This is great for the mother, but you can use this concept or this tactic for any relationship that you have, because we enter into relationships or we engage with people in our relationships. My eyeshadow is so pretty. I'm sorry, y'all. I just need to take a moment because my eyeshadow is popping today. But we go into relationships wanting something from the other person. Like, what can I get from them? Because we're coming from a place of need. We're coming from a place of scarcity. We're coming from a place of lack. But when I enter into relationships and I use my mother to practice this, it was not what can I get from my mother? It was who do I get to be in relation to my mother? How do I grow myself in relation to my mother? How can I become the next best version of me in relationship with my mother? And so for me, it would be something as simple as practicing holding my center when she would say fucked up things to me. Like, okay, I'm gonna, in the past, my pattern was she would say something and I would immediately clap back. Like I would immediately have something to say, or like I would raise my voice and she would raise my voice because she's raising her voice because she doesn't want to hear what I have to say, but I need her to hear what I have to say. So I'm going to get louder. And then it just becomes a thing where like it's a screaming match. And then I'm so upset and I'm so activated and so triggered that I'm angry for the rest of the day, or I'm angry for days after that. I'm crying. I'm like yelling to my boyfriend or to my husband and just like going off about my mother. And I was tired of feeling like that. I was tired of feeling like this woman had the power to control my emotions. And so I would just practice. How can I stand here, or can I be on the phone with her and hear her say some nonsense? And instead of reacting, just breathe through it. Just breathe through it. And over time, and there would be days when I didn't have the capacity. There would be days when I could not talk to her. I couldn't answer the phone, or I would hang up, or whatever. And I became more and more aware of my reactions in the moment, because a lot of you aren't aware of how you're showing up. You're not aware of your reactions. You're not aware of your triggers. That's why I said awareness is the very first step. You have to become aware of how it shows up. So I become more aware. And then as my awareness grew, then I could ground myself. And I had grounding meditations and practices and breath work and things that I had been learning at that same time to get me out of the trigger. And then eventually she would say things, and then I noticed that the triggers wouldn't be as intense. My response wasn't as intense. And then I could hear her just say things, and I could listen, and it made me a much better listener than I was, because that was something that I struggled with. I never would have told you that I was a bad listener, but I was a shitty listener. The same way my mom is a shitty listener, I was a shitty listener. And a lot of the things I started to realize that I disliked about my mom and the way that she treated me were behaviors that I actually was expressing as well. Maybe I wasn't expressing them with her, maybe they were showing up in my other relationships. And so by learning how to hold my center and to stop looking at my mother with so much judgment and actually just observing her from a neutral place, I realized where she was mirroring back to me myself in many, many ways. And so that was how I'm able to still have a relationship with my mom. And again, part of that is accepting that my relationship with her is not very deep. It's not a very deep relationship. Our relationship is pretty surface level. We can't talk about very deep things. I don't really ask her for advice. She doesn't see my gifts. She doesn't see my talents. She doesn't recognize those aspects of me. In some ways, she thinks that the work that I do is not of God. She has said that my work is demonic. Like, again, she's captured by the cult of Christianity. And I accept that. You know what I'm saying? So I accept that our relationship is very surface level. What I love to be able to just like get down in the dirt with my mom and talk about all of the things and talk about matriarchy and patriarchy and like the goddess. I would love to, but that's not the relationship that I have with her. I accept the relationship that I have, and I don't need it to be anything other than what it is, because I am whole and I am fulfilled in so many other relationships that I have. Callie says, too many people are in disconnect, sometimes petty stuff, but there has to be emotional intelligence to recognize patterns. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't start to develop more emotional intelligence until I even became aware that I wasn't emotionally intelligent in a lot of ways. I wasn't a good listener. I would raise my voice when I would get angry. Like I said, all the things that I was judging my mother for were things that I myself were also doing. And that's a hard pill to swallow. But if you're not willing, like, you want other people to acknowledge their wrongdoing, you want other people to change, you want other people to atone for or apologize for the things that they're doing to you, but you're not willing to look at yourself. You're not willing to look at your shit. And being willing to look at your shit and look at who you're being is one of the most important aspects of fixing your relationship with anyone. Nikki says, my mom passed 5 years ago. I really want to make sure I'm repatterning for my daughter. Absolutely. And it's really, really beautiful work. And somebody else in one of my comments said that, you know, having a child kind of like forces you, it's like very humbling. It can force you into this work. And my prayer is that more women will start doing this work before they have children. And it's one of the reasons why I don't have children. I'm child free because I wanted to make sure that I did the really, really deep work so that I'm not using my child as a springboard for my healing. It's not to say that you're never fully healed, right? And it's not to say that your children aren't going to come into this world to teach you things and to help you move through difficulties. And I think that's an important part of motherhood. It's one of the most important parts of motherhood, is not just guiding your children, but being guided by your children. But I never wanted to bring a life into this world that I would then projectile vomit all of my bullshit onto. But if you are watching this after the fact, like after the live, and you're watching this just on my feed on Instagram, you can still comment freedom to receive the link to Sovereign Daughter. So once again, Sovereign Daughter is my 3-day event. It is an intensive that is going to carry you through the mother wound. It's bringing you out of the good girl into the sovereign woman who is standing as her own authority. releasing your mother from the shackles of needing to be anything other than what she is. So this is for my women who are dealing with people pleasing and overgiving, who are struggling in their relationships with men because of the model that their mother showed them, who still feel like a scared little girl in the presence of their mother, who want to be able to accept their mother for who she is, whether she's in your life or not, without it throwing you off your axis of power, without it destabilizing you. Because a lot of you are constantly feeling destabilized by your mother. You're constantly feeling destabilized by the way that she is showing up in your life. And I'm here to teach you how to hold firm and be grounded in who you are, regardless of how your mother is showing up. To accept her for who she is, to look at her with compassion, to look at her with empathy, not to absolve her for whatever it is that she did, but you are not the arbiter of justice for your mother. Your mother is going to receive her own karma. She is receiving her own consequences for her behavior and the way that she's treated you throughout the years. That's not your responsibility. And you holding on to that and wanting it to look a certain way is one of the things that's holding you back from being in your life in its full expression and full evolution. This is why, again, so many of you are dealing with sickness, you're dealing with illnesses and reproductive disorders. So many of you have a lot of blocked throat chakras and a lot of thyroid issues because you're not fully expressed. And this offering is going to give you, sorry, I need to cross my legs. Ugh. This experience is going to give you the opportunity to not only deepen your awareness of this dynamic and the silent contract that you've been living out, but to move through and fully express all of the rage and the anger and the grief and the sadness that you're holding within your body that's metastasizing into dis-ease because you have been suppressing the way that you truly feel all of this time. And so I don't see any more questions that are popping up, but Sovereign Daughter begins on February 27th, where it's a whole weekend event, back to back to back. So clear your schedule, get your babysitters, whatever you need. Make sure that you have time set aside, you have privacy for this event, because we're going to be dropping in so deep. Anyone that is in here that has been in any of my other offerings knows we go deep. Like, our spaces are extremely transformative. They're very, very powerful, and you are going to feel shifts right away. When I was teaching my Selfish Bitch initiation, women were coming on the first week, and by the time the second week came, and we did this for 3 weeks, by week 2, so many things had started like blowing up in their lives. Situations were coming in that I told them were going to happen. People were calling them out of the blue. They were being faced with parts of themselves. They were being challenged in really powerful new ways. This is the power of this work. This is deep, deep, deep somatic work that we're going to be doing here. And you are never going to look at yourself the same. You're never going to look at your mother the same. If you have children, you are never going to look at your children the same. And you're never going to see yourself as a mother the same way again after you move through this process. And just one more reminder for this, we're in early bird pricing right now. So I haven't even officially launched it. I guess this live is the official launch of it. That's going on my page. But we're in early bird pricing. The prices are going to be raised without notice. The final price will be $555. And when you sign up, you are going to receive an affiliate link, your own unique affiliate link that you can share with the other women in your life that also need this work. And you will receive a 40% commission payout on every single woman that signs up using this link. And I'm so excited and so honored to be able to offer that level of affiliate share with all of you, not just to get this work out, but for you to have an opportunity to not only invest in yourself, but make that money back and even profit from this experience. Oh, this is a good question, Sweet Naughty. She says, how do you shut off empathy if you are an empath and you put everyone else first? So I already talked a little bit about empaths earlier in this live, and I've talked about empaths on my page before. You're not shutting off your empathy. It's not really possible to shut off your empathy. Well, you could, but if you shut off your empathy, you are closing down your heart space, you're closing down your receptivity, and you're going to be locking yourself out of your soul's mission. You're going to be locking yourself out of your blessings. You're going to be locking yourself out of really powerful, transformative relationships. You're going to be locking yourself out of your life if you shut down your empathy. Your empathy is not the problem. And that's what a lot of empaths think. They think that their empathy is the problem. That is not the problem. Your empathy is a superpower. Your empathy is a gift. Your problem is that you don't have any fucking boundaries. You think that because you feel so deeply and that you're so attuned to everybody else, that you're designed to be putting them before you. But you are meant to have strong boundaries. And the more empathetic you are, the stronger your boundaries need to be so that you can protect yourself and you can protect your gift. Not everybody can have your empathy. You can feel for everybody if you want to, but not everybody is deserving of your service. Not everybody is deserving of your magic. Not everybody is deserving of your energy. You should probably take my selfish bitch initiation, because this is what I dive in deep in my selfish bitch initiation, because so many of the women that come into that space are empaths who think that they're meant to put everybody else before you. And this is why a lot of you are suffering in your lives. You're suffering when it comes to abundance. You're not making the money that you want. You're not calling in the clients that you want. Your life feels like it's in shambles. It's because you don't understand that your selfishness, being devoted to yourself and your soul's mission, is the key to your magnetism. That is the key to your dharma. And you have been conditioned by this patriarchal society to give your energetic, your creative power away to everybody else. You have been conditioned to see yourself as a resource for everybody else. I believe if you comment selfish, you'll be able to get the link for my selfish bitch initiation. But if not, just go to the link in my bio, and it's the second from the top. It's right under my sovereign daughter offering. And included in my selfish bitch initiation is you get my selfish bitch masterclass for free. So the selfish bitch initiation is a 21-day transformation process, but the selfish bitch masterclass is what I taught initially, which is the primer. It's the essential primer for the initiation process that you're going to go through. So when you purchase that, you will receive not just the initiation, but you will receive the masterclass for free as well. So I hope that answers your question. Like women are always like, I'm an empath and I put everybody else first. You're the people pleasers. You're the overgivers. You have no spiritual boundaries. You have no energetic boundaries. You have no spiritual hygiene. You think that because you feel so deeply that you're meant to take on everybody else's shit, but you're not meant to take on everybody else's shit. You are only meant to take on the people who are giving you an equitable exchange for what it is that you have to offer, regardless of what your line of work is. You might be a nurse, you might be a spiritual teacher, you might be a Reiki practitioner, you might be a lawyer. Like, it doesn't matter what your job is. You are only meant to be giving your energy away to people who are equitably exchanging with you, meaning they are giving you something that is of equal value to what it is that you are offering. So if you're struggling with that, and if anybody else that's listening that struggles with that, take my selfish bitch initiation, because it will snap you right out of that. I have some amazing, amazing testimonials from the women who took the selfish bitch initiation, who are setting boundaries with themselves. One woman she was like, I thought that I would never stop being a pick-me. And she has started setting boundaries with men. She's not engaging with them in the same way. The situationship she was dealing with has been blocked. She's updated me recently saying that he's blocked. She has been writing her poetry and doing more performance art. Like, she's locked and tapped in after my selfish bitch initiation. So that's another really, really great offering for you if you consider yourself an empath and you struggle with those boundaries. Okay, my loves, that's it. I don't see any more questions. Thank you all so much for being here. I will probably be going live again in the next few weeks as we get closer to the date. But I'm so grateful for you taking the time to listen, to talk about the mother wound, to hear what it is that I have to say about this. I know that so many of you are struggling with this really, really, really deeply. And I know how hard that is. Again, I talked about my story because I have walked this fire already. And the fact that I have walked through this fire is why I'm able to guide you through walking your fire as well. But I promise you, moving through this initiation, releasing yourself from needing your mother to be anything other than who she is and standing as your own sovereign authority is going to change every single aspect of your life in really profound, powerful ways. So once again, comment freedom down below. If you want to get the link, if you're watching this live after I've gone live, send me a DM. I'm happy to answer questions. Let me know what you're going through. The links are also in my bio. I'm sending you so much love. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Have a great day.